DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you're expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you're going to use those personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any of us to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, this masterclass here that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, business is not a meritocracy. This is something that I want to make sure everyone is clear on, since every one of us is in business in some way, shape, or form. Now, this does exclude one specific category of people. All right, if you are a professional athlete, this topic is not specifically about you, because sports itself, for the most part, generally speaking, sports is a meritocracy. And what I mean by that is, in sports, the best players usually win. And it's clear what winning is in sports, because in sports, even if you don't play, you know that every sport has some form of scoreboard, right? Even in sports that are based on subjective opinions, which those are not the kind of sports that I really have ever been, I never really leaned towards those type of sports. So something like figure skating, or I don't know how they do it in wrestling. I can't exactly explain that one, so don't ask me. Boxing, at least in boxing, when they have to go to the scorecards at the end of a fight, I don't really like that, because then it becomes somebody's opinion whether you won or you lost, unless you thoroughly outpoint your opponent to the point that there's no way that the judges can see things anything differently. I don't like anything that in sports that will come down to somebody's opinion. But in the business world, everything comes down to somebody's opinion on some level. And that's why the topic is what it is today, that business is not a meritocracy. Now, you see, someone like myself, or any of you who are athletes, maybe in school, or maybe you used to play sports in school, now you're in the business world, or maybe you're a professional athlete right now, and eventually you will move on to the business world, because you can't play sports forever, at least most sports, depending on what sport you play. Maybe you play golf or something, you can play forever. So then I guess none of this will apply to you, but you can still use it, because maybe you'll step into the business world on the side outside of your golfing career. But for everyone, for the rest of us, all right, business is not like sports in being a direct meritocracy. In business, a less skilled individual can win if they have the right formulas in place in other areas outside of skill. In sports, if you don't have the highest level of skill, you don't have the highest level of performance, you are not the best player in sports, you're going to lose. That's pretty much how it works. Now, it doesn't mean you can't make a lucky shot or two one day in basketball, or maybe get a lucky catch in football, or get a lucky punch, a lucky random punch that you throw in a boxing match, you end up knocking out your opponent. But then if you two fight again and they beat you up in the first round, then y'all fight again for the rubber match to settle the score, and they beat your ass in 2 rounds again, then it's pretty clear that maybe you just got lucky in that one punch that you landed. In sports, in the long run, the best performers always end up winning. This is why I like watching professional basketball even more than I like watching college basketball, because I don't like when a random upstart who is not really better could end up winning. But that's actually what makes it more interesting. What I'm referring to is NCAA basketball's March Madness tournament. Everybody knows about March Madness, even if you're not a basketball fan. It's a single elimination basketball tournament in one game, and does the best team usually end up winning the championship? I would have to say in aggregate overall, yes. But are there times where there's an upset, where a team that, let's say 2 teams play each other in the NCAA tournament, whichever team wins that day, they win. But if those 2 teams played each other, let's say 5 times, and it was a best out of 5 series instead of a one game series, would the outcomes end up being different in the long run? For the most part, of course they would, because the better team usually wins in a 5-game series, because you can't get lucky 3 days, and you're not gonna get lucky 3 times in 5 days. Now, you can get lucky 1 time in 1 day, but you can't get lucky 3 times in 5 days, which is why I prefer, at least when it comes to the postseason format, professional basketball, because they usually do 5. They used to do 5-game series. Now every round, at least as of this recording, is a 7-game series. But people have been pushing for them to go back to 5-game series, at least in the first round, because usually what happens is you get a team that's completely overmatched. It's clear they're overmatched, but they might win 1 game, and that stretches the whole thing out, and it makes the whole situation, the whole series, the whole playoffs take more time. But anyway, I'm digressing from the very point. In sports, overall, as I've said already, when you're better, it'll be clear. When you're better, you will get the results. When you're better, the longer you stay in the game, the longer the game goes, is going to be obvious. In the business world, you could be better than somebody. You may be better than the other person who's on your same level in the organizational chart, but they end up advancing and getting promoted to a higher level, and then getting it promoted to a higher level again, while you are still working at the same level 2 years later, even though you're better at the job than them, simply because they were better or they had the right formulas in place in other areas besides just the actual act of performing the job. And any of you knows, especially those of you who work in offices with a whole lot of people, those of you who work in anywhere in corporate America, you know that it's a whole lot more than just your performance on the job that determines how far you go and how high up the ladder you climb. I think any of you who have that experience know exactly what I'm talking about here. A less skilled performer can win in the business world if they have the right formulas in place, and that's something that I've talked about many times, these different formulas, and I'll refer you to a few other of those episodes at different times on different episodes of this show, maybe a few of them today. But today what we're talking about is why in the business world, just being good alone is not enough. Yes, you heard me correctly. Being good alone can be enough for you in sports. You're a good basketball player. I've told athletes this for years. If you're good at your sport, let's just say a sport like basketball, that's the one that I know the best, and you keep playing in games, and you at least go somewhere, if you take the simple step of at least placing yourself somewhere where the games are happening, where other good players are, and you prove yourself there, you don't have to be that good at politics, you don't have to be that good at salesmanship, you don't have to be that good at whatever other relationships, people skills, you don't have to be good at any of those things. As long as you can perform out there on that court, eventually the game will promote you on its own. That's just the way the game is set up. And the business world is not set up that way. You could be a great performer, but if you are not friends with the right person, or you don't say the right thing at the right time, or you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, all of those things could hold you back, despite the fact that you have all this skill and you're clearly better than a whole bunch of other people. Now, are there some exceptions to this on both sides? Absolutely. There are some times in the business world where you're so good that it doesn't even matter. You can shoot past everybody. And there are some rare exceptions in the sports world where you could be really good as a performer, but unless you take certain steps, you're not going to be able to move up. I could say some points in my own sports career that definitely applied. But in the long run, as I said, skill alone ain't enough in business. Let's get into it. So before I step on any more of my points. Point number one, today's topic once again is business is not a meritocracy. For those of you who don't know what meritocracy is, that means whoever's the best wins. Point number one, business is a two-step process. Two-step process in business is step number one, you got to actually have something good to offer, something useful, something that will help people consistently, so that even if, and then the step two, before I even go any further, step two is selling it. All right, it's 2 steps in business. Number one, have something useful that is good and positive, creates a positive outcome for the user. And 2, you must be able to sell it, i.e. get it into the hands of the people who need it. That's what I mean when I say selling something. Sometimes you have the right ingredients and you have the wrong recipe. Right ingredients and wrong recipe means you have something that could really help a whole lot of people, but you have the wrong recipe. In other words, you don't know how to sell it. You don't know how to market and promote it. You can't get anyone who actually needs it to pay attention to it. Therefore, you have this great product that you cannot sell. I had a business colleague of mine. I haven't talked to her in a few years, but I remember she told this story of when she first started business. She decided to go all in on this t-shirt business. She was making these t-shirts and they had these designs on them and these slogans on them. And she thought it was a great idea. And she went and got thousands of t-shirts printed up. I think she said she had like 4 or 5, maybe 10,000. I don't remember the number. I know it was in the thousands. Thousands of t-shirts that she had printed up, and she was warehousing them in her garage at her house. And the business just fell flat. All right, the business didn't go anywhere. She wasn't able to sell those shirts. And she told the story when I first met her. She was telling her, her origin story in business. She doesn't sell t-shirts anymore, of how she was just sitting in a garage on top of a pile of thousands of t-shirts that she could not sell, and just feeling like shit and feeling in despair. And her daughter walked in and saw her sitting there on top of this pile of t-shirts. And that was kind of like her turning point. And she decided to make some changes in how she was doing her business. She had the right ingredients. I think that she thought whatever those t-shirts were would be great for a whole lot of people if she was able to sell them, but she had the wrong recipe. In other words, she didn't know how to get those t-shirts in people's hands. Now, if you go outside right now or go to the mall or to a restaurant or anywhere where people are gathering, as of this recording, it's the summer of 2020. So right now, I guess you won't see any groups of more than 10 people when we got the social distancing rules in place, depending on where you live. Maybe there aren't too many groups, but you know what I mean. All right, you've been alive before COVID, so you know what it's like when you can see a whole lot of people at once. People have t-shirts on, right? People wear t-shirts every day. I know I got a whole lot of t-shirts that I wear. So there is a market for t-shirts. was just a matter of, can you sell your t-shirts to those right people? So she wasn't wrong in thinking selling t-shirts is somewhat of an idea, because people do wear them, but can you get them into the right hands? In the business world, not the business world, the sports world, it's kind of like a one-step process. One step is be good. That's the only step. If you're good and you keep playing and you just go around and play wherever the game is happening, somebody's going to notice you, somebody's going to see you, and opportunity is going to find you. That's kind of the way that it works in the sports world. Now, again, I did say there are some exceptions where a player feels like they're really good and maybe they're getting some attention, but not the kind that they think. So they do a little bit of marketing, a little bit of promoting, a little bit of selling, and it helps them actually get seen. Maybe even a lot of selling. Listen, I told y'all many times about myself personally. Had I not had the ability to sell, I may not have risen above other players who were at a similar skill level to me, talented, but not so talented that it was just like, oh my God, we got to have this guy above this guy, that guy, and that guy. Had I not had that ability to sell, I wouldn't have got my opportunity to play professional basketball. But there are some professional athletes, let's say a LeBron James level athlete, who is so good that he didn't need to know how to sell. I don't know how good of a salesperson LeBron James is, but he doesn't need to be one, because he was so good just at the performance aspect that other people did the selling for him. He didn't have to sell. So that's what I mean when I'm saying in the sports world is a one-step process. Again, there are some exceptions of people who do have to do some selling, but for the most part, you don't. Sometimes in business, I'm talking about business again, you can have the necessary stuff, but be missing the formula to convert that stuff into the expected returns. And that formula usually is your marketing, promotion, and selling. And anyone who doesn't quite understand, I think everyone here has heard the words market, promotion, and selling. Selling is creating the exchange, meaning getting someone interested in your product and the transfer of emotion from you feeling how you feel about the product, which hopefully is very positive, to them feeling that same way. And that's when you can create the exchange, the close. Marketing is the relationship between you and the audience of people to whom you wish to sell. So marketing and selling are different. Marketing is just the relationship there. I told you in masterclass number 1515 that you are a marketer. So if you have not listened to that episode, again, that's masterclass number 1515. And I told you about my experience in network marketing and the benefits, the business benefits that you gain from a network marketing experience just a couple days earlier, masterclass number 1503, the business and personal growth benefits of network marketing / multi-level marketing / whatever it is that you want to call it. But you should make sure you listen to both of those masterclasses so you understand what marketing is actually about. It is not the same as selling, and promotion is just amplifying your message. All right, you can call promotion amplification, meaning making sure people hear it, making sure people know about it. Don't just drop one link about your book or your product or your online course and then say, well, nobody clicked on my link, so I don't know what the problem is. You got to talk about it some more. Maybe create a story around it, sell it a little bit, sell it a lot, do a live stream, go on somebody's podcast, start your own podcast, buy some advertising. You got to do more than just drop a link or send one email and hope that people get the idea. You have to transfer that emotion. That is all part of the sales process. So understand, here's the claim that I'm going to make here to close up point number one. A great salesperson with a weak product will last longer and be more successful. And when we say successful, we're talking about actually selling your product, because business is an exchange, right? They will last longer and be more successful than a person with a great product who is a terrible or hesitant salesperson. Let me say that again more concisely. A great salesperson with a weak product will last longer than a terrible salesperson with a great product. So any of you entrepreneurs, brand builders, content creators, or whatever category you want to put yourself in, who's listening to this right now, and you feel like your material is great, your product is great, your service is great, you think you are great, yet you know that you are not getting the expected returns on investment, and you don't even see a path to getting there. You don't even see yourself getting better, and you're wondering, like, how am I this good, but I'm not getting the results that I'm not getting anywhere close, even a quarter of the results that I'm expecting to get. It's probably because you are a terrible salesperson, or you are a hesitant salesperson, or that maybe you never even thought about the fact that you need to be a salesperson. All of these may be your problem. So let me refer you to a few episodes I've done about sales. Masterclass number 1247, developing your sales mindset. That actually should be the first one you start with. Again, that's number 1247. Masterclass number 1229, sales concepts 101. Masterclass number 667, your number one sales tool, which is agreement. And number 625, how to sell without being salesy. And I talked about selling in many other masterclass, but I gave you just those four. I told you about people skills to sell, masterclass number 393. The very basic one, number 337, masterclass 337 is titled, how to sell. So any of you never thought about selling? And actually, let me tell you one more. Masterclass number 335. Sometimes people would ask me, Dre, why are you always promoting and selling your stuff, your products, your online course? I don't really promote courses like that anymore. The game group membership, some free thing that people can get. Why are you always promoting and selling your stuff? Well, that's how you sell it, bitch. The only way you can sell something is by promoting and marketing it. If people don't know about it, they can't buy it. And to tie all this up, I wrote a book called The Seller's Mindset. If you didn't know, now you know. You can get that book, because if I didn't tell you how to get it, you can't buy it. You can get it at workonmygame.com/sell. The Seller's Mindset. Workonmygame.com/sell. SELL. Let me tell you one more time. Workonmygame.com/sell. The Seller's Mindset. Let's move on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, business is not a meritocracy. Number 2, in business, everything is subjective. In the sports world, we have this one pillar of objectivity that no one can delete. It is called the scoreboard. In a football game, if you walk into a football game at halftime, the first thing you probably want to know is what? Let's say you walk in on somebody watching a football game and you are interested in that game. Or you walk into a basketball game and the game has already begun. It might be the third quarter, fourth quarter, second quarter, middle of the first quarter. If you walk into I don't know what other sports, any other sport, hockey, baseball, and you want to know what's going on in that game, but you see the game has already begun, what's the first thing that you want to know? You want to know, what is the score? How many runs do the Phillies have versus the Astros? How many points do the Lakers have against the Chicago Bulls? How many goals do don't get me to try and name hockey teams, or whatever sport it is you're watching. How many points the Buffalo Bills got versus the New England Patriots? You want to know what the score is. Why? Because we know whoever has the most points on the scoreboard at the end of the game is declared the winner. And the winners are the ones who end up moving on, getting the championships, the trophies, the contracts, et cetera, et cetera. You lose a little bit too much in the sports world, you might be out of a job and out of a career. In the business world, there is not always a scoreboard. And even if there is a scoreboard, not everyone has the same scoreboard. Some businesses, their scoreboard is how much money are we making? Other businesses say, yeah, we want to make money, but that's not our real objective. Our objective is we want to create change, or we want to give to a charity, or we just want to put good out into the world, or we just want to make sure that people have jobs. Even if we're not making that much money, we just want to make sure we are giving people an opportunity. We want to do this. Every business can have their own objective. Not every business's main objective is make as much money as possible. So you can't always say that our scoreboard is the same as their scoreboard, or you can't always assume that other people's goal is the same as your goal when it comes to business, even though I've run into many business people who make the mistake of thinking that everyone else has the same ideas that they have. If you have better people, if you have more solid people skills, you won't make this mistake. And I've talked about this in many masterclasses here on this show, but I'll tell you a couple that you should pay attention to. I just referred you to 393, people skills you need to sell more consistently. Masterclass number 47, 3 tips for improving your people skills. And masterclass number 1260, people skills that will improve your interpersonal relations immediately. That one is one that even if you are not a salesperson, you should listen to, because it'll help you get along better with people. And unless you are a recluse living in the woods somewhere where you don't have to deal with people, you need people skills to improve, and you need to improve your interpersonal relations. And if you don't deal with people at all and you live in the middle of the woods, I have no idea why you're listening to the show, because really you don't need it. But anyway, as a professional speaker, remember we're still on point number 2. Everything is subjective in business. That's the second point. As a professional speaker, I'll tell you something. I have a confession for all of you. I see trashy speakers at every conference that I speak at. Every conference that I have spoken at, every TED Talk that I have done, every conference that I have attended as just a member of the audience, I wasn't even speaking, I have seen trashy speakers. I've never gone to a conference where every speaker was good, unless I went to a conference where there was only one speaker and I went there specifically for that guy or girl and they were great. All right, besides that, in any conference where there are multiples, like a whole lineup of speakers, there's always some trash on that agenda, always. Now, I'm telling you that not to shit on any professional speakers out there. And anyway, I'm not going to say anybody's name unless they say my name somewhere. Then I'm going to say their name. But nobody said my name as far as I know, so I'm not going to say their names. And the thing is this. I'm not saying it to trash them. I'm saying it because, first of all, it can encourage any of you who's thinking about getting out into the world and presenting yourself on a stage somewhere. All right, there's plenty of opportunity. Even though the professional speakers market it is saturated because there are so many speakers out there. There aren't that many good speakers. All right, there are a lot of speakers, there aren't that many good speakers. All right, there are a lot of basketball players, not a lot of good basketball players. There are a lot of podcasts and a lot of good podcasts. So even though you may see a whole lot of people in the space doing something, it doesn't mean that the opportunity is gone, because a lot of them ain't shit. All right, just so you heard it from me. All right, and anything that I've done professionally, trust me, I've seen a whole lot of trash in those exact same things. Professional speaking, basketball, podcasting, writing books, blogging, branding. Now, anything that I've done, I've seen a whole lot of trashy people who do not belong there, but they keep trying. So don't be discouraged when you see a whole lot of people in the pool. All right, a lot of them don't belong in there. Anyway, all that being said, the world needs more people who are actually good at what they do, who can actually deliver, people who can actually bring something that is a high ROI to the audience based on whatever they had to give. Whether the audience is giving their time, whether they're giving their money, their attention, their energy. A lot of professionals out there, and when I say professionals, that means people who are being paid for whatever they're bringing to the table, are robbing the consumer. They're robbing the consumer in that they're not giving the consumer more than what the consumer paid to get it. They're either creating an even exchange where the consumer gives an hour and you get them about an hour's worth of value, or they're creating a negative exchange. The consumer gives $10, you get them about $8 worth of value, or actually that's pretty much the two. The real return on investment is, I say, a minimum 10x. All right, that's the goal all the time. You never heard me say it, you hear me saying it now. A minimum 10x. Minimum 10x means anything that you give to me, I'm going to give you a minimum 10x return on investment. You give me $1, I'm going to give you $10 worth of value, guaranteed. You give me an hour, I'm going to give you $10 worth of value, guaranteed. It's usually going to be a lot more than that, but that's the minimum. That's the minimum expectation here. The masterclass number 726, here's the title. Needed. People who are actually good at what you do. Again, that's masterclass number 726. So we have addressed this topic before, and that was over, 800 days ago. So make sure you go check that if you weren't around back then. You're a game group member. Again, masterclass number 726. There is a paucity in the world of people who are actually good at what they do, even though there is a plethora of people who are actually trying. All right. In sports, that objective scoreboard, everybody has to appeal and bow to the scoreboard. The business world has customers, and guess what customers are? They are humans. And guess what humans are? Anything but objective. Human beings are not objective. I try to be as objective as possible, but it's impossible for me to be fully objective because I, like you, am human. I have a subjective experience. I have opinions. I have fears and insecurities, just like every other human being out there. Therefore, it is impossible for me to be completely objective. A scoreboard is an inanimate object. All it does is have numbers on it and lights that are controlled by human beings, but the scoreboard is objective. Usually the scoreboard isn't lying, all right, unless somebody's cheating who's working at the scores table or something like that. But generally speaking, the scoreboard is telling you the truth. Customers, being human, all right, they're gonna tell you their truth. And when somebody says, I'm telling you my truth, that does not mean they're being objective. That means they're telling you something subjective, but they are hiding behind the fact that, well, this is what I believe, so this is what I'm just gonna keep saying. All right, oftentimes when somebody's telling you, I'm telling you my truth, sometimes they're just coming clean and just being honest with the world about themselves, and the other half of the time, they're just telling you some bullshit that they choose to continue to believe despite the proof or evidence that is in their face that speaks to the contrary. But that's a different subject for a different day. Though everybody, human being, thinks that they are being objective, you know, somebody who watches Fox News all day thinks they are being objective by telling you what they heard on Fox News, and people who watch CNN or MSNBC all day tell you that they're being objective when they're repeating everything they heard on CNN or MSNBC. And I already told you not too long ago that you should stop watching the news, because the news is not actually giving you facts. They are giving you their subjective opinion mixed in with a little bit of fact, enough of a little bit of fact to make you believe that they're telling you the, quote, truth, but it's not. Again, that's masterclass number 1474. Stop watching the news. So anybody who watches any of those channels a lot and thinks you are getting objective information, no, you are not getting objective information. They have fooled you into believing it's objective, but it's actually not. Again, it's masterclass number 1474. Saying all that on this point here, we're still on point number 2 of the fact that business is subjective, and everything is subjective in the business world. If you have the best product in the world, however, the public does not know that you have the best product, or the public does not agree that you have the best product, you will not make a sale. Everybody hear that? You have the best product in the world, but the public doesn't know / don't agree that you have the best product, it doesn't make a sale. No, if a tree falls in the forest and no one there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. I say no. Now, there's some scientific arguments on that one, but I think you get the overall gist of what I'm saying here, semantics of what I'm saying. If you have a great product and nobody's there to buy it, does it make a sale? No. Actually, I'm gonna tweet that. Anybody want to tweet that, just make sure you at me, I'll retweet you. The leading product out there, quote unquote, the leading product, meaning the one that sells the most or the one that's most known, is not always the best product. Did you all know that? Any of you ever had a product that you were offering that you thought was better than the most popular thing, yet the most popular thing stayed the most popular thing? Why? Because it's the one that sells the most. The one that sells the most is the leading product, not necessarily the best product. Has any of you ever been in a situation where you knew you were better than whoever was recognized as the best, yet you were not able to get that point across to enough people or get enough people to agree that you were the best? Therefore, you were not able to be recognized as the best. And that can be a frustrating experience, but that's why I did the masterclass number 1515 about you being a marketer. When you change your mindset into marketing things instead of just creating things, because any creators out there understand we got to put ourselves in a mindset of selling, not just creating, because if you don't sell, then you can't get anyone else to agree that your creations are that great. And I talked about this not too long ago, just a couple days ago, in masterclass number 1575, doing the thing versus selling the thing. Those are two different skills. If you didn't know, now you know. Again, 1575, that was less than a week ago. You probably remember. Point number 3, today's topic is business is not a meritocracy, meaning just being good in business is not enough. Number 3, the winners in business are those who create the most and the most lucrative exchanges. So when I say winners, I am creating the scoreboard for you. The scoreboard that I'm talking about is creating sales, revenue, money, okay? The winners in the business world are the people who create the most exchanges or the most lucrative exchanges. So it's two ways to make $1 million. You can sell a $1 product to 1 million different times, or you can sell a $1 million product one time, or a $500,000 product twice. All right. Again, you get the point that I'm saying. The winners in business create exchanges. And you know who creates the most exchanges? The people who are best at selling, not the people with the best product. I'm pausing there to let that sink in. Let me say it again. The people who create the most exchanges are the people who are the best at selling, not the people with the best product, not the people who had the best service, not the people who had the best ideas or the best show or wrote the best book. People who are the best at selling what they've done. Again, refer yourself back to masterclass number 1575, doing the thing versus selling the thing. If you can do your thing, but you can't sell it, what you become is frustrated because you know you can help the market, that is the people who you want to help. If they would only know about your product, if they would only understand that yours is better than XYZ, if they would only understand that there is a solution to the problem that they had chosen to live with, but for whatever reason, you've been unable to get your point across, and that leads to frustration because you know you could help, but you're just not able to do it. If you want to win in the business, you want to win in the sports world, just be good at what you do, work on your game, be good, keep putting yourself out there. Eventually somebody's going to see it, everything's going to work, yellow brick road, we live happily ever after. You want to be good in the business world, and what the difference is with the sports world is that everybody can't get in. See, that's the thing with the sports world. In the sports, all you gotta do is be good. The problem is you have to be so good because there are so few opportunity as compared to the number of people who want to get in. The business world is kind of the opposite. In business, anybody can start a business. Right? Anybody can create a product and put it online and sell. Anybody. Now, there is no limit, there is no cap, there is no roster limit in business. Anybody can be in business. The problem is anybody can be in business. And you got to compete against all of them to get somebody's attention. First of all, just to get attention. All right, if you're selling socks, you're still competing against Netflix, even though they're not selling socks, because you got to get somebody's attention off of Netflix and onto your socks in order to get their $5. And if you cannot get people's attention, then get them to understand that you have a solution to their problem, and then get them to exchange their money for your solution. You can have the best product in the world, but you will not win. This is the crux of the game of business. That anybody can get in, but not everybody's going to be successful. In the sports world, very few get in, and that all of the very few, 100% of the few who get into the sports world become successful. I remember I was looking up this guy. I don't know if any of you would know of, I'm not going to say the guy's name because I'm not going to put him out there, but he had a show online. I'm not going to say what format his show was, but ain't that many different formats. But anyway, his claim to fame, his credibility piece was that he was a former professional athlete. Now, he had played football in the NFL, this guy. He played football in the NFL, and I went and looked this guy up because he had reached out to me once years ago. We never were able to connect. And I looked at his material, and a lot of the stuff that he was talking about was similar to the stuff that I was talking about. Now, his level of delivery and his skill in putting his stuff out and what he was talking about was nowhere near the level of my stuff. And I don't know what he was doing as far as this third point here when it comes to exchanges, but I don't think he's on my level at that either. But anyway, I'm bringing that up. I'm not even bringing that up for that point. That when I looked him up, because he said he had played professional football in the NFL, I went and looked up his NFL career, as opposed to like playing basketball overseas, where there's no one place that has everybody's background stuff. You couldn't really look my stuff up because not every team has that stuff, and I was playing even before it was normal to have all that stuff in place. But in the NFL, all that stuff is there, and this guy was relatively young. He might be even younger than me. I looked him up. This guy appeared in one game in the NFL. He only played in one game. And the one game that he played in, right, he got the ball and he fumbled the one time that he touched the ball. He got in one game in his whole career, and he fumbled the one time that he had touched the ball. And I'm bringing that up not to trash the guy, because again, y'all don't even know who this guy is. But here's the thing. He leveraged the fact that he played in the NFL. That's all it said. It doesn't say I played one game in the NFL and I fumbled the one time I touched the ball, which is true. All it says on his resume when he's talking about himself is, I played in the NFL. And that is technically true. He did. I looked it up. He played in the NFL. But the one time he played, he fumbled the ball. And the one time he touched it. And I'm saying that, again, I'm not bashing dudes. Y'all don't even know who he is. But the whole point is, just the fact that he played in one game, he can say NFL next to his name, and he can leverage that for credibility for the rest of his fucking life. In the business world, you cannot leverage, hey, I have a podcast, because any motherfucker can have a podcast. Anybody can start a business. Anybody could be offering an online course. Just because you have it doesn't mean anything. All right, can you get it into the hands of people, and is it actually getting them a result, and can you get proof that you're actually doing that? Those are all things you got to do in the business world that the sports world does not require. All that being said, let's recap today's class, which is business is not a meritocracy, meaning being good alone means absolutely nothing. Number one, business is a two-step process. You got to be good and you have to sell it. Sports world is a one-step process. All you got to do is be good and somebody else will sell you. Sometimes in business, you can have the right ingredients but the wrong recipe. And a great salesperson with a terrible product will last a lot longer than a terrible salesperson with a great product. Number two, everything is subjective in business because you have to sell it to a human, and human beings are not objective. Every one of us thinks we're objective. None of us actually is. The leading product in the world is not always the best product. The best product is the one that sells the most. Number three, the winners in business are those who create the most and the most lucrative exchanges. In other words, those who are best at selling, not the best at doing. Like I told you just 5-6 days ago in masterclass number 1575. If you have a combination of both selling and doing, then you become good. But if you can do something but you can't sell it, you become frustrated. Make sure you don't have that problem. I've given you the material to make sure you don't have that problem. I've laid it out for you. I told you all the masterclass to go get it at. You got access to it in the Gang Group membership. Access everything you have access to in this membership. Again, I'm helping you with this. That's the reason why I put it all together. And oh yeah, make sure you get that book, The Seller's Mindset. I can't have a book called The Seller's Mindset and not sell it to you. Workonmygame.com/sell. Let me tell you one more time. Workonmygame.com/sell. Work on your game. Dre all day.